got
I started the owl.
So I want to call the meeting to order. Today's October 16th, 2025. This is the Financial Management Committee meeting. And with that, let's open with a prayer. And Bob, would you mind leading us?
Lord, we're grateful for all of the things that we receive from you each day, all the blessings that we have from the Father of lights. Help us to always realize our blessings and help us to use the wisdom that we have for the citizens of this county. We crave and we covet your wisdom. And we are always mindful of the fact that as we do so, we try to look out for the welfare of those that live in this county and do the best that we can without any malice or bias or anything else. Watch over us and keep us in your word. Help us to always do the right thing before our fellow man. We ask this in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, let's move forward to review and approve the minutes. Any questions?
We need to do the agenda.
I'm sorry, agenda. Yeah, minutes are next. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, let's move forward to recognition of the public. And I believe we've got somebody signed up, Charlene Allmiller.
Thank you. I'm Charlene Allmiller. I live at 143 Roland Circle, Huntersville, Tennessee. And I'm here to speak about a few different items. I do appreciate there is a transition plan in here for the finance director. I was looking through the different responsibilities for the finance director, and I've asked this question via email and social media before, but I'm just going to ask it directly because we are having a transition. And I'm just curious, especially because the last meeting there was a lot of talk that there are internal controls, but the finance director is the one that's responsible for the internal controls. So my question is what internal controls would detect or prevent the next finance director from directing an employee to set up a vendor that goes to an address where the check would go to them or a bank account that they're in control of, direct another employee to create a purchase order, and then approve the payment of the check for that? What is there to stop that? And how would we be, and I know you can't answer, but like if that could be requested as information of some of the internal controls, then those are being monitored by the finance director, that I'm concerned. And then that leads me also to the 1981 Act, which says that like this committee, which is not full-time employees, are the ones that are monitoring and that I think that one elected person needs to be held accountable for the finance director, because we as voting citizens need to be able to fire that elected person if they hire the wrong person. That's just me. And so I'm wondering how the 1981 Act got into the contract that's in the minutes that were approved today. And then I'm also questioning why Chronos and even the purchase order system are being prioritized and getting into Munis and automated that way when the budgeting process is not in there yet. Like Hendersonville has a completely automated budgeting process, and that actually makes it really easy for the purchase orders to go through. Like the owner, for example, the highway superintendent, his person can create a purchase order. If it's approved in the budget, then it can be approved in the system. It's a normal workflow in like regular for-profit entities. The Munis system operates that same way. It's just not operating that way here. And it would save a lot more time and provide a lot more visibility than Chronos, where you have a majority of the people are on salary. So are we prioritizing the things that are making our system in our county most efficient? And it's been, 13 years, I think, that we can get onto the ERP system. But other than that, thank you so much to the current finance director for the help, and I think that's just a really good, I would like to know what are the internal controls that are being self-monitored that would let you guys know if we were being robbed blind by the next bank instructor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move forward to the approval of the minutes. Any
So
questions?
moved.
Second. All approved?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right, move forward here to the report of the committee chairman. And what I want to do here is really the mayor and David have been working hard on looking through our candidates. And now I think we're at a point where we're also looking at search firms. And I believe we have a couple of finalists that we want to look at today. And I think the goal here is to walk away with one vendor that we can use and let the mayor and David, or David's replacement, Beth, to move forward on finding the new candidate here. So I do think that it's important that we get out of the gate today. So with that, I'll let you, Mayor, if you want to take it from here and walk through the two entities.
Sure. Yeah, I think David and I have had some very productive conversations on this, and positive conversations. And I think 1 and 2, and David will agree with me because, I mean, he's written that they are pretty much the same. There's not much difference. Number 1 has a tad more experience by the numbers. But I would argue that number 2 has enough experience to accomplish the task at hand. Number 2, Sumner Local Consulting has a consultant on staff that has actually worked in Tennessee government with the city of Brentwood. And so all things equal, I kind of like that. And that's what brought me to, in my opinion, to choose Sumter Local Government Consulting over the SGR. Other than that, I think they'll both be fine companies that we went with. I just like that local Tennessee experience and his network, at least what they say they can bring to the table, their network of Tennessee finance people.
Okay, great.
So with that, I would like to make a motion that we accept number 2 as our consulting firm.
Second. Any questions?
Got a question here. You said it's local? I see Alpharetta, Georgia.
I said that one of the consultants is local
Sumter.
that will be working on this. Yeah, that we can tap his resources. He's out of Brentwood. So that gives us a Tennessee connection that the other company did not have.
Page 103.
Yeah, he's got a very big one. If you keep going back, I think they have 3 of them that has their full blown in there.
Can I just say, I went last night and started doing a little research on both of the entities. And I looked up SGR. And they are deep in this space. I mean, they've done a lot of searches. And they've been around, quite a bit longer. That doesn't necessarily make it a better,
Right.
choice. But what did you, in terms of just the in-depth, it looks like something that's been around, 4 or 5 years, something
4 or
like that?
5 years, yeah.
Why would you, other than the local connection, did you see any measurable differences in what they could do for us?
No, I agree with David's assessment that they did bring more tenure to the table and more clients. My only conversation or my only comment to that was that I felt Sumter had enough to perform the job that we need them to do. I don't want to use the word point of diminishing returns, but they, number 1, was it SGR, certainly has a laundry list of clients.
Yeah, he's on page
But,
37.
Sumter in their short 4 years have built quite a portfolio of clients.
Right.
Which also can lead to their success in their short tenure as professionals in the field.
Right. And cost-wise, it looks like it's pretty close.
It seems to be a wash on cost. We really, it's hard to get a definitive number. I think David would agree that they're marginally close.
You got a range there.
They
Yeah.
price differently, so you can't tell.
Right, right.
They're neck and neck, I mean.
I did like Sumter, the 2-year kind of guarantee where they would go back and do another search if the candidate did not work out.
Yeah.
That's a nice have with that.
I sometimes get a little worried on the big ones because, they're kind of formulaic, like we do the same plan, I mean, but there's also a lot of value in depth, but then it's also,
True.
Well, and
I like
also,
having my local.
What I would say is the mayor will be working the most with them, and you probably need somebody he's comfortable with. I went through and evaluated them and sent them to the mayor, they're neck and neck. SGR's got a little more on the data as far as the background, a little more time, a little more tenure, a little larger. This group has more of a Tennessee presence, a smaller firm, doesn't say anything, just a shorter time, but, the resolution said for me and him to bring something back, but the way I see it, I'm gonna be gone.
Right.
And he's the one that's gonna be working with them the most out of the remaining and your full-time agent, so. It said for both of us to bring something back, so what I'm gonna do is go along with whatever he says, because he's gonna have to be the one comfortable working with them, because I'm not gonna be here to be working with them.
Okay. Bob, do you have any other questions?
So I would agree with him on the Sumter, for that reason.
I tend to agree with the mayor on this. I looked at it, I think that local connection is going to be your best. I've been involved in quite a few searches out throughout my career, and having that local connection is really important. So we have a motion and a second. Ready to take a vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you.
thank you, Director.
And I guess, Mr. Mayor, you're up. Report of the mayor.
I have no report.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Mr. Law Director, anything? for
I
you?
have no report.
Okay. And then is Cindy with us? Okay. I think her information's in the packet. I looked at it. Looks pretty straightforward. I think some of the interest rates on some of the instruments are trending down some, but the Fed's dropped the interest rate, going to probably do it again this month, so you can expect some of that. And when I looked at the tenure on some of the instruments, I think we're in pretty good shape on keeping some of these at a pretty decent rate for a good period of time. So hats off to Cindy for putting the right portfolio together on that. So any questions? I mean, David, you're probably closer to it than me, but I saw no issues with what okay.
She goes to the market for all these, unless you're gonna take on risk, we're not allowed to take as much.
Got it. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay, with that, let's move on to the report of the finance director. Ms. Miller, I want to say you brought some very good questions up. And some that I thought about myself. So thank you for that.
Jimmy address a few of them, make sure you guys are kind of.
Yeah.
Let me get back to the list, because, well, since I moved it around, but I think the big one was on internal controls. We have internal controls for everything. We're required to, unless the new financial director comes in and modifies your internal controls or modifies your processes. Right now, the way it works, I receipt no funds because I'm in charge of the office. I write no checks, and the system doesn't allow me to write any checks. I do not add vendors to the system because of that reason. There are several concerns. One of the reasons that we have not taken on the budgeting software is it was brought up with the original ERP, but it's about $80,000 a year. So we've kind of marched along hoping to get to Kronos and then go back and pick it up. It would be the next step. Because right now what we do, we have an Excel sheet that does import and export things from the ERP system, so we're not manually entering those, but we do need to come up, because Excel's biggest problem is that it lets you do anything you want to, including make massive mistakes. So we spend a lot of times reviewing that. I think that is your next step, is once the finance director settled in, to move away from the Excel sheets and finish bringing them in. One time we did have all the workflow for the POs, and the elected officials wanted the manual systems back. There was for a better word, they were not happy with it. They wanted the manual paperwork. They wanted the manual system. We were doing the full-blown workflow. I actually removed 90% of the workflow that was originally in there. There was workflow for change of vendors. There was workflow for POs, change orders. Some of that's still in there for POs and change orders, but it was all workflow that we set up, and we did run into a few problems with the ERP system where it said the workflow would do it, it would not, and even the vendors could explain it. But it is something you need to keep moving toward, but last time we tried to complete automation, I think the best word was we had a lot of resistance. That's the way you'd put it, Beth. We actually went down into committees because the commission added a resolution because some departments didn't want to add codes for locations and departments, and they went in and gave them directives to do it. But, I think we are correct. You need to keep moving forward with your size as far as slowly walking it in a peaceful manner. Because there's two ways you can do it peacefully, or you can try to pull somebody along, and when you pull them along, it's much more work, it's much harder, and they resist everything you do. So that's why we're trying to slow walk it, to keep as much peace between us and the departments as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's been out there a while, so
We've been moving
I
slowly.
certainly hope that our new finance director, when we get him, he or she will put that top of list, because that is important. And I do think we have to make measurable progress on that in short order. And I can appreciate, David, what you're saying in terms of
We've been
how
there.
we got there.
We've
But
been-
let's forget about how we got to this point, and let's look to how we can do it a little bit better.
Because we did do things, we did change the complete ERP system, added the chronos, took out, the sheriff had a system that was non-functional. So we've done a lot of it, but the thing is we try to do it slowly for cost efficiency without adding a lot of employees. And then the other thing is we've tried to keep as much as possible things peaceful and running, because you pull off too much at one time, you're gonna have a lot of fires.
Right.
But if you wanted to add a lot of employees and rush it, you could.
Yeah, okay. Any questions for Beth or David on that? Okay, let's back up to the transition plan, if we could.
Let me go through it.
Yeah, and I just want to make a few comments about it before you get started. And David, thank you for doing that. I mean, I think it is very detailed. I see a lot of things that are going to need to be done day one when David moves on. And my major question today, other than understand the details of it, is are you getting the information you need to do in 2 weeks what David has been doing? And I talked to David a little bit today about where he's at on some of the major topics, like recognition of revenue. To me, that's a big one. You haven't missed it in 17 years. So that's one that we got to stay on top of. But David's done a really good job at outlining some key responsibilities. But now is your time to tell us if you're getting what you need, the resources you need, and at the speed you need it to get up to speed as much as you can between now and when David leaves.
We're working on it.
But
Next 2
you're
weeks.
feeling pretty good about the exchange of information and just the whole transition. You're not gonna feel good about David leaving, I understand that, but I'm more interested in the transfer of the knowledge at this point.
We're gonna need to put everything on hold the next 2 weeks. We've already talked about that. That's the time. I mean, you're gone for what, 2-3
2
days?
days.
Because the big outlines are what we're addressing over the next 2 weeks, big time. So my plan, unless Beth has something different, we need to knock every other project to the ground right now.
Well, I mean, sitting on this committee, I'm not sure it gives me a warm and fuzzy that we're gonna put everything on hold for the next 2 weeks. I mean, what I'm trying to understand is, what is it you're putting on hold? And I mean, I know we've talked about some in M&A and stuff like that is kind of a nicety to have, and I don't know that I completely agree with that, but I understand that you won't get an audit comment for that, but I understand also that is very time consuming to do that. But that being said, I just want to make sure we have highlighted the key, if it's 4 or 5 or 6, whatever that number is, responsibilities that you need to have. Are we going to have access to you after you leave? I guess that's my question.
Probably not a
Go ahead.
lot.
You just go away?
Probably not, because I'm gonna be somewhere else working.
Okay.
4 weeks.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is the big one's your revenues.
Right.
What we're gonna start next week is the current year of property tax roll. We're gonna load it in and show how to reconcile it in next year's sales, property, and then go through the revenue sheets. We're gonna go over the big 4. And then we're gonna take the budget and finish updating it the same as if we're going to do a budget, and we're actually going to do a test run of importing all those tables in from Munis, even though it's not useful. And then we're gonna go down that large checklist and go through each item and make sure she knows where the data is or how to obtain the data. So we've got those addressed, but I want to knock down any other projects because that's gonna take pretty much all next week because other projects is still being, what's the best word, best sliding in, keep coming in. They're coming in daily. It's, both of us has more than a full load, so that's the difficulty, and that's why I highlighted some things in red, such as the MD&A. I think it's very important. It tells us your overall financials, but very time consuming and less advantageous than day-to-day operations, and it takes a lot of time. Just like if you look through there, I mentioned revenue monitoring. I spend 8, 10, 12 hours a week monitoring your revenues and financials, several more every week. We haven't had a significant shortfall in 17 years. Better say before I came, we weren't monitored that closely. So I think you can kind of kick those down to just the large 4 until you do your budget.
Let me offer something up, and if you don't agree, tell me to go pound sand. But maybe in a week, and I'd like to include you, Mr. Mayor, if we could, is to get the people here that are on the ground understanding where you're at in, say, a week, and allow us to kind of absorb what you're doing. And I see transition, but I'm not up there doing your journal entries. I don't know what you're doing. And I certainly would want Mr. Mayor to understand what you're doing, because, he's here every day, right? And most of us are not walking these halls every day, but, so instead of you just walking out the door, and I know Beth is here, but I think we just need another pair of eyes and ears, and I'm gonna offer myself up for that. And you guys schedule it in a week if you want. And I don't know, John, what you think about that, if you could just see it, understand it.
Good idea.
And I know you're doing a lot of work with a new candidate, and I think it would be good for you to get knowledge of what the transition kind of looks like. And again, I'll offer my time up to do that myself, if you guys would like for me to. But maybe in a week, set up a meeting or a call with me, Beth, you, Mayor, anybody else that wants to be there.
Look at some of the documentation, like the Excel sheet on revenues gives you a lot.
Okay.
The checkoff sheet gives you a lot right here. So, but the thing is, you've got to remember, we have significant SOPs that have your internal controls for many things that go on in the office, just like rolling the budget from one year to the next, there's an SOP for that. So the big thing is right now is making sure they understand where the revenue numbers come from, where to look at your financials for problems. For instance, arbitrage rebate, we just did the rebate, we've got all that done, it's out of the gate. We're starting to roll the revenue sheet, that's usually about a month from now. To give you kind of a history, and this will kind of maybe put you a little more at ease, I came in March 1 of 2009. At that time, Beth, would you say when we do this review next week, you'll have a lot more data than you had when I came in March 1 of 2009? There's no revenue
Absolutely.
sheets, there's no budget sheets, none of that existed. So I came March 1, finished the budget in another county, came down here, and I think I had you guys, I sent you an email to go ahead and request basically the upfront data. And I sent down an Excel sheet I wanted you just to start working as a template to start putting the data into. That was back in February after I was hired. And that's all we had, and had no revenue sheets, no workups. So I took the revenue sheet I had from another county and started adapting to this one and had them pulling data in from another one to start monitoring stuff. So right now you're down here, based on the vote today, Sumner, I think you guys voted for it already, correct? Morning, go down there and get the information with Scott to start working with John to go ahead and get the PO out. So you're gonna have the rest of October. November, December, January is gonna be your 90-day. February is gonna give them a 30-day notice, or possibly March. You're gonna be around that March 1. If you get you a competent person in with a lot of groundwork from this state or another state that understands GAAP and can understand how statutes generally work for counties, and they should be in good shape if you can get you somebody here by March 1. Because these few things that you're gonna forgo is things that, I looked at first thing when I got here, and we did have revenue shortfalls that year. That was the year I came, but I didn't, and that was the Great Recession, so it was a rough year. But we got through it and got the budget done. So I think you're moving the right way with the recruiter. Get you somebody in here, we get the stuff here and get a list of things that can be forgoed, because to be fair to Miss Browning, she has more than a full-time workload, and I have more than a full-time workload, so something's gotta break, and we don't want it to be her while you're trying to get somebody else in here.
Well, and that's something else to keep in mind. Yes, I'm stepping as interim, but I'm still doing my assistant director duties as well, for the most part. There are a few that I'm gonna have to hand off, but there are a lot of them that I'm still responsible for. So I'm not just picking up finance director duties.
Yeah, I will certainly be patient. I mean, I'm just trying to make sure that you got what you need. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, to Bethany. Are you, since you're gonna step in as the interim, in the event it is taking us 4 months to get a new director,
Mhm.
will you have someone who knows enough about your job to help you? Your current job to help you smooth all that out?
We will work on that if it looks like it's not gonna pan out.
Okay.
Because the spring is rough, budget season's rough.
Yeah.
In my position, and to pick up David's duties as well, it's gonna be difficult if we don't have a director by that point.
And audit's already here, and they said they're gonna try to have the funds, which is your roughest part, done before I leave. So I'm gonna be working with audit to try to get everything. They said it's still gonna be a while before the actual financial reports are out with the audit, but they're gonna go ahead and try to get all the financial portions done with me before I leave, so that's gonna take quite a bit off of Beth too, if we can get that done. So I've gotta be able to get with the auditors, Beth, and try to figure out what we can make the most advantageous to get the workload down. But your big time is audit, year-end, audit, budget, and then calendar year-end. There's sometimes issues there too, so that's your 4 big times. Audit, we got budget knocked out this year, audit, so calendar year-end, I think this past year went the smoothest because the year before.
It's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. We've had bad years. This
Have a
gets
good-
smoother. It's been smoother since the changes we made the other year. Not involving you, but the other change we had to make. So that should push you, if you take some of the things out and kind of keep your projects to a minimum, it should take you to March 1. Everything runs smooth with Sumner, because I think theirs was actually 56 days, John, I can't remember. Theirs is a little shorter too, so it should give you enough time to have your person by March 1. If you don't have somebody for March 1, it's going to get really rough. You're already past your time in that budget. At that point, you're gonna probably wanna look at things like not doing payroll by position, which we've talked about eliminating anyway. Budgeting your large revenues and doing less statistics on your small revenues. Because I'm just being realistic, there's only so many hours a day, and your employees can only do so much, just to be fair to Ms. Beth.
Yeah. I want to be fair with that. And, the new grant account that is coming in on the 20th.
It's gonna help with all these projects getting ready to
Right.
ramp up. Right now, the projects are kind of in limbo and where they're gonna be, with the same thing as mentioned Monday, if they're moving the projects and the stuff, they need to just kind of shift it around. They're gonna help with all the new projects coming on board and kind of smooth things out. Because we have had significant overtime, the new accountant last year is gonna help with that a lot, because we've been burning overtime and comp time, even with me here like crazy, because the county's just growing and the requirements are growing.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
But this, to me, this is a little bit of a result of the fact that, and I mentioned this at an earlier meeting, that I have some concern that the finance director doesn't really have day-to-day accountability to a full-time person. I mean, and I know today it's the commission, but, I mean, it's this committee, and we meet monthly, and we don't walk the halls here every day. And so I do have some concern that the finance director needs to have that kind of mentor person, in the organization, that kind of helps, navigate politics. I mean, just be honest with you, it's hard. Any new role, especially in the government, county type job, there's a lot of politics that has to be navigated and processes. So I too am concerned about, the lack of accountability of this person. and also given, mentioned this earlier, maybe 1 to 2 meetings ago. But it does hurt the controls when you've got, and I know, David, you and I talked about it, and there's some audit, back-end audit stuff, but at the end of the day, you drive the entire bus, right? You make the widgets, you sell the widgets, you collect the money on the widgets. And to me, that is not a good, solid internal control structure. So I think we got to think that through. I mean, to me, part of the role of this committee is to do that, is to look at financial controls. And not take a person out of the equation, but look at the process.
I can give you a good recommendation. Once you get your new finance director in place, your Munis system, and the person works fine, but they actually have a log of changes, and it actually has a log of what permissions you have. It may be something you want to start looking at. I wouldn't recommend doing it now with all the other transitions and people, because me and you've looked at them before when a couple of years back, IT was doing the permissions, got opened up to make things work, and we started moving. Now, audit does look at those, and they look at changes on those, but it may be even more advantageous in addition for the committee to look at something.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, audit does look at them, they look at what permissions you've got and changes during the year, and it's a very, what's the word, large.
But if you're waiting on audit to come in and find a problem, you're being reactive, you're not being proactive. And I think that's a control for a purpose, and they're not as thorough as probably you and I think they are. They're really not. It's no slam against what they do, but it's not at the level that I think, if I were sitting in John's chair, I would be comfortable, totally comfortable with the controls.
If I was the committee chair, what I would want long-term would be, which audit has the Munis printout of the audit, log for the permissions, and which they look at those already, and probably a log, if automated if possible, for somebody to be saying there's changes. Which mine probably changed for 5 years now, 3 years. They haven't been changed for a long time, but the same thing if they're changing it, because for instance, unless something's changed, I don't receive money, don't write checks. And the reason being is what you're saying. If I write the check, who's gonna look at the check other than audit? So I don't write checks, don't write receipts.
You set up vendors?
No, I don't set up vendors.
You don't do journal entries.
Don't do journal entries. I
Budget
review journal
adjustment.
entries where I provide complex ones
Yeah.
for somebody else to enter.
Well, let's do this. We're getting in the weeds here. Let's kind of move on, but I just
There's a
want to
reason I don't
go
do
ready to
those.
say, I think we've got to think that through.
There's a reason I don't do those, and it's unless somebody makes changes, they don't, but that's your point. They come back and make changes, and if you don't know what changes are made, you don't know.
Yeah, all right, I hear you.
So,
Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, if I could weigh in briefly, because I don't want to get in the weeds, but I think it's important that as we go through this transition, you talked about the politics. The finance department needs to be out of the politics. They need to be apolitical. They don't need to be drugged through that mud and muck of the political world. So what I would like to do, I'd like to see, and you alluded to this, I think if we start having regular meetings and talking about finance, working through this transition plan with Beth, and I'll be happy to do that, and just, shepherd that process through and coupled with that is do as much as we can to expedite this search. When I speak with Sumter, to express the urgency to expedite the search. That way we can start getting consistency in that department. And then along that vein, talking about the controls, we can have a new finance director come in. They may want to restructure the finance department, the way it runs, the way it looks, to make it their own. I think David kind of did that when he came in and put his signature on that finance department. So I think right now as a transition, I think what we ought to do is just have regular meetings with Beth and the team and just make sure that they have the resources they need to be successful. And I'll be happy to do that. And anybody that wants to be part of it, I don't think it should be part of a financial management committee meeting. Otherwise, we may not be able to have quorums all the time.
Right.
And plus, there will be no policy decisions, no votes. It would just basically be shepherding in through the process.
Right. No, I'm happy to also offer my
Yeah.
time for that.
Not the same here.
Yeah, and if, who's going to take the lead in getting these meetings together?
I'll take care of that.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
perfect.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
that's the one thing that perked my ears here. If y'all decide to have updates, meetings, or whatever, I'm gonna need to know, because based on the makeup of those meetings may require me to post notices of them and
Okay.
things of that nature. So if I can just be put in the loop as soon as practical, I'd appreciate that. That way we don't run afoul of anything.
These are more day-to-day operations.
I understand, but if I get two commissioners in a meeting, got an issue there.
Okay.
Okay, that's
If it was one commissioner, the mayor,
We
and
have two having information.
it would probably still need to be an open meeting listed as informational only.
Well, why don't we, I mean.
But
I hate to
I'll
do this.
get you an
I'll just-
answer for that.
I'm not a commissioner. Why don't I just kind of represent the committee and work
That's what I was gonna
with
suggest, and if
others?
if there's a snag, then we just have a meeting.
That's right. That
Yeah,
way
I
we
think that makes more
don't
sense.
we don't have that issue. Do you see that? Is
Hey,
it-
that's fine with me.
Okay.
Shane would like to know.
That's one I gotta be
I'm
at.
available for 3:30.
Okay.
So we can
That's,
just.
that's excellent. I'll reach out to you offline and
Okay.
we'll get everything organized with Ms. Beth and
Sounds good.
Unless it's.
You okay with that? I know you don't.
Oh, I think it's just one
But I
commissioner.
can pose, I can.
We'll let you know.
Okay, David, I think the next is the language on the blanket purchase orders.
Do you want me to go through this really quick, or you guys?
Quickly, yes.
To keep from going through the whole thing, I'm just gonna start on page 229, and we're gonna go through the important things, such as number 5, where really the meat starts in the checklist. If you really look, the first thing is make sure your budget documents, your outstanding debt and leases, we're gonna go over that. Your recurring calendar deadlines, and then we have a checklist, which is attached, which is rather long. And then the other things that I'm talking about, the regular meetings, which you mentioned that, but it was gonna be more internal, but anybody can be involved to be helpful. And then we go through the checklist, and it's long, and I'm sure you've all seen it before, because there's 2 meetings. And what I've done is put down the stuff that I'm generally involved in, the time frame, the things I'm gonna go to, it says in progress. And then in red's my recommendation of things you temporarily change to help with some of the workload, and there may be additional things you do, because I spend a lot of time on revenue monitoring and financial monitoring. But as I'm saying, when I came here, I dare say it was not monitored to that extent. Your revenues are conservative, they're solid. I think probably your most advantageous thing to do is really start looking at them deeply during the budget cycle and just look at, I think I mentioned property tax, sales tax, and probably maybe EMS fees as your 2 biggest things to look at. Does anybody have any questions on the transition plan? Then the Cronus update, I think you kind of alluded to it. Same thing if we're working on it, moving forward slowly, unless you want to put more resources to kind of get through some of the roadblocks that we run into. And some of the big roadblocks we're running into is when the county changes policies, it requires at times complete reprogramming of the system. So we stop the implementation and we work on those, and that's happened 10, 15 times now. So we're basically reworking the system, significant programming, every time there's a change in your personnel policies. And they're fairly often, and that's another issue we're running into. Page 233 is the blanket purchase order language. Based on the approval, the only change you'd really need to do is just knock out number 6, and it would do what you guys discussed last month. But it does bring up an issue that's followed on page 234, and the issue you're going to have is between $10,000 and $25,000 a year. You know, $25,000 a year requires a bid. Between 10 and 25 for one purchase requires 3 quotes. If we go from monthly to annual, your things that are such as $18,000 a year, it's been divided into 12 little purchases because they're going to be one big purchase. So they're going to require and make the committee aware, because you're probably going to hear back from the departments, you're not going to be happy about that, because you're going to have to get 3 quotes.
That's right.
So they're probably going to be complaining and ask for a change in the policy, because it's going to, instead of alleviate their work, it may actually bring more work back in. Good or bad, I'm not going to make a call on that one.
David, the only thing that's different, highway is anything under 25,000.
But it's for quotes.
Yeah. You don't have to quote.
Yeah, but we're not doing
We try.
you guys right now.
I mean, you tend to have some large purchases, though. I mean, you're kind of a large purchase, and
They would be
outside
good,
of the highway, you could have multiple smaller purchases that that get you there, you know what I mean? So I like the control.
And the thing with the state, we've been discussing, we've been aggregating 25 for a year, and CTAS said 25 a year, talking to the state. They've not really given us their feedback on it. If you look at the statute on bidding, it used to say 25 per fiscal year, and now it just says 25,000 aggregated. So is that by a single purchase or by a year? Talking to legal, it's not clear in the statute anymore. Talking to CTAS, they still think it's by the year. I've actually reached out to audit, and they're looking at it right now. So
Okay.
we're not even sure. We're very much on the conservative side, so we're aggregating the whole year still. And
Exactly.
the mayor can talk to you about, for instance, like on air conditionings, we've already spent over 25 a year, even though there's separate departments. So if we're spending $8,000 on air conditioners right now, we're bidding it, so we're doing a whole lot of bidding, but that may change.
And are you in line with where he is on this in terms of the 25? Okay. I think it's a good control. I know it's a little bit labor intensive, but just for the reasons we've already talked about, I just think the more controls, you know, the better right now. So
That's one of the reasons we asked for the project manager / help in purchasing too, because we're having a lot of bids and there's a lot of specs and a lot of projects, because all the air conditioners are separate now. And I think we had how many on that list, John? A whole lot to be repaired over time.
Yeah.
So now we're bidding every single, only if they're even
Don't bring
six.
that up.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, when the new finance director gets here, let's let that person revisit from just a workflow and what makes sense from a control structure.
Well, they need to talk to the state because the aggregation isn't clear. That's where we're at. right
Okay,
now.
I got you.
I've sent a question out to them. It should come back which way way they're viewing it. The statute used to be clear. It said 25 like items per fiscal year. I think it was last year, the year they changed
It may
it to
take them more than
aggregation.
2 weeks to get, so if you can make sure that has that information, she can bring it back to the next meeting.
If they're back by then.
Okay,
End of my report, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Any questions? David, this is the last swap at him in the committee anyway.
Got the commission Monday.
And I want to say publicly, David, how much I appreciate your hard work. You've done a lot of tremendous work here, and you should walk away proud that you've made a real difference here in Sumner County. So thank you so much, and I know you'll do great in your next role. But I just wanted to publicly say thank you.
Appreciate all of you, appreciate the committee and all you working with all of you over the years. Some of you's 3 years, some of you, John's been the whole 16.3 years, and then Dr. Langford's been almost 11. I think it's close to 15, 11.
I was just thinking 11 years ago, we were sitting here talking about Tyler when I was chair.
And that's what Dr. Langford pointed it out the best. When we talk about Cronus, nobody realizes we pay 87 different ways and have 13 different policies, or is it a few ways? Several personnel policies, so you really have a whole bunch of
Or
offices
even within those offices, they have multiple different ways
of how they
employees
interpret
are-
it. As long as it's a reasonable interpretation, it makes sense. We take it, so you've got massive programming, and then every time there's a small change, policy, it ends up being massive changes everywhere. But I think it is a good thing just to keep moving forward on it long term. You eventually have a full-blown ERP, but
Yeah. Again, thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
you guys.
Okay, let's move on to old business. We really have nothing under old business, so let's move on to new business.
Motion to group and approve 1 and 2, please.
Second.
Okay, let's walk through those individually, just so we can understand the details of each. So for number 1, I think I'm going to ask to suspend the rules, make a motion to suspend the rules so Ms. Cato can speak. Do I have a second? Second. All approved, okay. So, you came last week and we didn't have a forum, so unfortunately, I'm sorry you got to come again, and I appreciate you doing that. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to walk this committee through this particular purchase. Just to be honest, I've done a lot of research on this since we last talked. I have seen a number of emails, and I've looked at a number of bids. So I do have a series of questions myself.
We didn't do any bid.
Hmm.
We did not do any bid.
No, I'm sorry, the ones that were bid out to this person. we had some that had been bid out earlier. Separate transaction, not this one. So, and I'm looking to see how well that we were complying with the rules, and, but this one we didn't do. And so, walk us through how we got there. I've seen some of the back and forth, but I think it would be better to hear from you about how we got here and how why you used a P card and why you didn't bid it and all that, so.
We have always used Joey's Carpet to do the initial measuring and everything because the county uses them so often. So they came in and did invoices for each separate area, and the areas that we wanted, they broke apart so that it would fit within our, the funding we had for the, I'm so sorry, what is the word?
Budget.
No, the extra projects.
Capital project.
Capital, thank you, I'm sorry. And I saw that it was close enough and to not go to bid, and I asked them if they would give us a break if we could pay for it without having to bid it out to other people, and they agreed immediately, and we saved, I think almost $3,000 by me offering them that. And I thought I had covered everything because we turned in the PO and the car the same day, and it is on me that I didn't get the PO approved before I did the car purchase. But I did go back to them and ask them for a more detailed receipt because that was something you questioned at the last meeting. And they broke it down in the cost of labor, glue, the tiles, and the wall things.
Right, I saw it, thank you. So, the 3,000 that you say we saved, tell me how you got the 3,000, where did that come from?
The original measuring they had done so that we could start the RFP process, so I would know what to ask for, had been a little over 13,000. And I went back to them and simply asked if they would give us a discount.
And in trying to get that discount, were you trying to get it under the 10,000 bid amount?
Yeah.
And did it land where it was only the 9,998? There was no other monies paid on that invoice? No other monies paid above 10,000?
Yes, my friends of the library paid for the additional stuff in a room that we added afterwards that's not part of this.
Yeah. So, but you did pay, and I'm looking at an email
Yeah.
that's from August 27 of this year. And it's from you to Miss Leslie Bennett.
Yeah.
Educate me who Leslie is.
She is the president of our Friends of the Library group.
Okay. In this, and I'm gonna pass this out, just so the committee members have this. If you don't have enough, let me know. So, here's my concern, okay? Our policies specifically say that you're not supposed to split invoices to be able to avoid a bill. And if this invoice, it shows here that the final Joy's Carpet, well, let me just read it out loud. And this is from you to Leslie Bennett. It says, I have a quick request. Wasn't sure if this is something we could handle by email or should we wait until the next meeting. Next paragraph says, we're using county building improvement funds to replace the flooring in the big meeting room downstairs and in the story time room in the children's department. The county will cover it, but the project came in at $10,617.02. Since that's over the county $10,000 limit, it would technically have to go through full bidding process, advertising quotes, etc., which would slow things down. I put the county policy at the bottom of the email. I've attached the two invoices. The good news is that Joy's Carpet, who we love, has offered their lower price of $10,004. They will still do the job for us. That leaves $401 over the limit. So I wanted to ask if Friends could cover that. we could pay the rest of the county on county credit card, move forward right away without a long bid process. Would this be something we could vote on by email, or would you rather wait and decide at the meeting? Okay, so I just want to make sure you're familiar with that email. And I guess my concern, and I've had a chance to visit with David, I think David approved this P-card purchase over your spending limit. He was not aware of these facts. And the problem, I think, Ms. Cato, is that you did split the invoice to get it under the 10,000. Our policies specifically say you're not supposed to do that. Are you aware of that in terms of, because you're pretty aware of the bidding policy because you attached it. So were you trying, I mean, that was the goal to get.
I was under the impression that I couldn't divide it amongst Sumner County funds. They paid so that we could finish the entire section.
So here's the downside of that, okay? If you had put it out to bid, right, we might have got a bid that's lower than 10,000. So by the fact that you used other funds to avoid the bidding, did not give any other vendors a chance to bid, which we could have gotten it under possibly. Who knows, maybe Joey would have been the right vendor and it looks like he does quality work. And I'm not as focused on that, I'm focused on the process. So just keep that in mind in terms of how you look at these purchases. And given what I found, and I think I'm inclined to at least make the library board aware of what we're looking at here. And David, I think you and I spoke earlier today about your thoughts on the whole process now that some of these facts have.
I didn't approve of splitting. I didn't know anything about it, but one thing we need to make sure, and it was right above the purchasing policy, the policy is 25 and above for bidding. It requires 3 quotes for 10, so there should have been 3 quotes obtained, it looks like. Because our policy specifically prohibits splitting, because what that would allow you to do is come in here and split a purchase from 3-4 different areas and never bid them, and then we're not guaranteed to get the lowest price, or at least try to get the lowest price, so that's why that's prohibited. It looks to me like we're splitting it. I mean, that was to avoid.
As the county didn't pay for the second part.
I mean, it's getting into question. I don't know. It's kind of, if you did a 20,000, we pulled 10 off just to make it 10, then it, you know, or.
It's an audit flag.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that shouldn't be done. I think it should have just got 3 quotes, just to make sure you get the lowest price, but it's kind of a gray area, but personally, I would have probably got 3 quotes, but I didn't know anything about this, so.
You have any other?
No, but that's
You
kind
said
of
something about your approval. What?
well, my approval was for the purchase order, just because they failed to get a purchase order, but I didn't approve to do any splitting, so I
Would
wasn't
that
aware.
change your approval?
If I'd have known that, I wouldn't have approved the purchase order because I didn't know about this issue here, so. Really, I think the committee needs to deal with the purchase order versus me. I think it needs to be pulled back into the committee and let you guys deal with it, because I was not aware of that it was over $10,000 in any form or fashion.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I think, I agree with everybody at the table here. I think what happened here, I don't think this was malicious. I think her assumption in splitting this is that, well, she wasn't splitting county funds, so she may, and here's the thing, she should have asked, she should have been trained better in this. I think, in my opinion, the answer is better training, and maybe we can get with finance to get a training program in place to understand that a split is a split with anything, not just a split within county funds. Because I can see, well, I've been around a long time, so I know, but I can see how this could happen and not be malicious. So I would recommend that we pass this at this board. I think we've made a good verbal reprimand that, hey, you understand that this isn't the route to go in the future, and do some additional training. And I would propose that we do training for all the library staff, give them, all the library directors, so that they do understand this whole purchasing process and the bid process, just to make sure they understand that. But it would be, I think it should stay here at financial management. It's a financial management issue. It's a purchasing issue, and I would like to leave it at this table.
I would appreciate training. I know the rest of the directors would. We have, I asked so many questions to try to figure out if I was able to do this. I figured out how to increase the credit card limit. I communicated as much as I knew with the knowledge I had.
So let me
Really
just,
appreciate that.
and I know you got, but let me just, one more question.
Okay.
The other purchases that you've used, if I got this right on the, there were three other purchases by the library, Gallatin Library, with Joey's in the last, looks like 2 years, back in 23 forward. All four of those were bid out. No, yeah, all four of those were bid out because they were over the 10,000. Why did you feel like that you needed to use your P card to pay for this versus having Joey just submit an invoice and pay it?
I did not have an opinion on that. That was just,
I mean, was he asking you for advance payment or prompt payment, or you just decided to use your P card to
it
use?
was under the limit that we could spend on it.
But it wasn't under your limit. Your limit was, I think, less than that.
Well,
That's what you approved, right?
5,000 is the PO limit, it was 10, so I'm not sure why she didn't think one was required, I'm not sure on that one.
Okay, but let's go back to the there's a 5,000 and this invoice is almost
I can't
10,000.
It's a 5,000 limit before a PO is required.
Right.
When you
If it's a
use
P
it.
But
card.
what's the limit on the
Because we pull
card?
them in
There's
every
not a
night.
limit. It depends. So, each card has a spending limit. But she and I had talked, and she had asked, Joey's was waiving the P card fee. She asked if she could put it on the P card. There was nothing preventing her from using her P card, and it's the email that I'd sent to you. The county gets a rebate on all of our
Yeah, I'm
P
not
card
focused on
charges.
rebate. I'm focused on
And
process.
We import them every night.
Those P card charges, they were imported every day. Our clerk that imports those,
Daily review.
reviews those to look for anything out of the ordinary every day.
You guys flagged it, right? And
We pull in those transactions every day to look for large and unusual. Regularly, all departments are required to reconcile, code it, and attach invoices just like a check. So if you get some big unusual thing, as soon as we import, or even before that, if they think it's fraudulent, the actual company will freeze it or contact us. Or our clerk will go, hey, this is a big purchase, bring it to Beth, me, if she's not here, or we'll bring it back to the department and say, hey, you've got a $10,000 transaction. Is that legit? The answer is yes, we move on forward. And then what they do is, we want them to do it as often as possible. We've asked them possibly weekly, but most people do it once a month. They'll come in, code all their transactions, attach every single invoice, and we review every single invoice to make sure it's legit. Or if it's even a small one, it's not, we'll challenge it to the, back to the credit card, or not credit card, P card. Or we'll consider it fraud if you're charging something, we find it, or not documented correctly, we can get more documentation. But
Yeah.
it's got the same controls as a check, except we pay the P card up front versus a check. We have the invoices first. But she's saying we do get a rebate, and we pull those in nightly to make up for some of the controls.
And
Or
in
daily.
Gabby's case, we were expecting that to come through. She had communicated with me, she had communicated with Janine. We were expecting that charge, so we weren't alarmed when we saw the charge because we were expecting the charge.
why wouldn't you ask her to have the vendor submit an invoice like you did the other 4 times?
Well,
We didn't do a bid on this one.
No, I mean, why would you?
She would submit the invoice when she reconciled her P card.
Yeah, but
Through the system.
don't vendors send invoices and you approve them and then you pay the
Not
vendor
always.
directly?
Not always. I mean, like,
No.
if you're gonna order something from Amazon, you're placing an order,
I understand, and Joey
We can
did the
get that.
work, and there is an invoice, I got more detail on, thank you for that.
but we wouldn't ask her to send us an invoice before she put it on her P card.
No, I'm just
That's
talking
what
about
we
the
do.
other ones were not P card.
They were paid by check.
Right, that's what I'm talking
There
about.
were bid items that were large and had been a fee.
I understand, but
Joey would've
what's
charged a fee.
magic about,
He
you're saying
offered,
you gotta have a bid before you issue a check. And in this case, you didn't get a bid and you did a P card. So why were the other four
He
paid
offered-
with check?
he offered to waive the P card fee, because there's a limit in person policy, up to $3. So he agreed to waive whatever his regular fee is. The other times, as far as I'm aware, he didn't agree to waive that fee. So the fee would have been too high and we would have required a
Well,
check.
I will say this, and I appreciate what you're saying. I would say this, when you have big purchases like that, unless that it's a highway, and you're buying huge items and you know they're in budget and you've got them earmarked in budget, I would say, ask the vendor, do a check, don't put it through P card. I get you on the rebate, but you lose some of that detailed control when you do that. Now, you know, I had to hunt down the invoice and the detail to the invoice. You guys didn't have that, and you should, before you pay this, before that's paid.
It had not been coded yet. If it was coded, it should have been.
But enough said, and anybody have any other, and Shannon, let me ask you, I'm sorry, Bob, go ahead.
You said the original purchase was for $13,000,
We had different.
and then he
prices.
discounted it $3,000.
Yeah.
Didn't that kind of set some alarm bells off?
No, because
It
we
did.
did so much business for them.
Well, I know, but still, to pad your bill $3,000, that right there is one of the things that the bidding process would have eliminated.
And I will do that next time.
That's-
I apologize.
yeah.
It actually would have been quoted for this one, but.
Talk to me. Yes, sir, you have a question.
Do you think, given what you've read and what you've heard, is this a matter that you want to talk to the library board about in terms of the event? Or would you rather just handle it here in the finance committee?
I think it's fine here. We had an issue with another director 2 years ago. There were multiple billing issues, and Mr. Long and I discussed it, and at her that director's annual review, I suggested, based on what I had talked to with finance, that we put in a 90-day corrective action plan that would include some training and maybe some counseling. And I was told that that was not appropriate and we didn't need it for this director. And then within 6 months, this same director purchased a plan for $13,000 over her budget for IT. And again, there was nothing what y'all did with, at the time, financial management, made this director go back in her budget and find the $13,000 because she had overspent. But no training, no corrective action plan again. We could, I cannot speak for the board. I can only tell you what we've done. Should it go to the board? Perhaps, but at this point, not to beleaguer it, we don't know where the chairman lives, we don't have proof of residency, we have multiple issues at the library board right now, so probably the best thing to do is handle it here at the table. But I'll be honest with you, I don't feel like that I should be making that decision because I am one of the votes of her, I'm
No, I understand.
an
And I
employer of her. So
appreciate
I don't,
it.
so I'm just giving you some history to how the board, and it's basically still constituted the same, handled the prior directors. And I do feel comfortable though saying, I don't think I took the certified county financial officer class, I passed all the tests, but I still can't remember everything, and I had to remind myself, $50,000 is the number that sticks in my head, because at budget, that's what I know. Over $50,000, we have to request for proposals and quotes, etc. So I can see where they would, without some type of yearly update or training, this gets lost in the weeds. And also, I would say, based on the training I had with CTAS, with the centralized purchasing and a project manager. These type things maybe wouldn't happen at county buildings as often. So that would just be something else that I would add to that.
No, that's super helpful, thank you for that. And I tend to agree. And I agree, Mr. Bayer, that we've made a pretty good point about the process and the policy, and I think you certainly get where we're going on that. This is not to be critical of you, right? Okay.
I did.
And I appreciate you being very transparent about it. But I think we go back, we had a motion and a second. What I want to do is go back and ask you, Mayor, if you could update your motion with some of the things that we've talked about, and I think we're ready to go.
Sure, my motion is to group and approve and pay these.
With training, right?
Yeah, yes, with some training for our library directors.
Okay. And who's going to do this? Who's going to train?
This will be done through finance, and I'll work with finance department.
Okay.
You know, right now, we've got the transition with finance. I don't want to throw anything on them right this minute.
Can we do it in 90 days, you think?
Yeah, but we'll work to make sure the directors have this information and understand going forward.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll
So
make sure
finance
that.
will do training of the library employees, directors in particular, and that'll be hopefully completed within 90 days. Okay, I'm
I
good with
think
that.
that's fair.
Good with that. Okay, at this point, ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain. I just.
Okay, one abstain. Yeah. And thank you. Yeah. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.